Okay, so now we're on to the grassy knoll shooter finally, and that is Jack Valente. Jack Valente, by far the most significant person in American history. I put him in one of the top people in affecting world history, up there with Reinhard Gehlen and the like. So before we get to how this actually went down, let me go over a little bit of his background and explain to you the level of scumbaggery that fucking Jack Valente actually participated in his life. So first off, he was born into two mob families, the George family and the Valente family, okay? Just Google either one of those and you'll see long-standing mob background, mob ties, okay? But he was also a CIA agent. This doesn't exist anywhere in his official biography, but when you dig into his file, you'll see that they did background reviews on a lot of the people who got to the White House, particularly Valente. So this is a letter to Mr. Moore, probably CIA, from C.D. Deloach, who's one of the top guys in the FBI at the time, subject Jack Valente, December 12th, 1963, right after the assassination, because as you'll see, Jack Valente gets a gig in the White House on that date. Walter Jenkins called me from the White House at 12:40 p.m. today. He mentioned that the president planned to move several people in federal agencies over on the White House payroll. Captioned individual is one of these people. Jenkins wanted to know if we could furnish him to the president an immediate name check based upon the information in FBI files, and then additionally conduct a full field investigation of Valente. I told him we would be glad to do this. Jenkins told me if a full investigation had already been conducted of these people in the past, that he nevertheless would like to have them brought up to date. All right, so then we have a news article. FBI probed Hollywood's Jack Valente for mob ties because they were deep. All right, so I believe he had homosexual blackmail on LBJ because, make no mistake about it, Jack Valente was LBJ's boss in the White House. Plain and simple. He was the connection to the CIA and to the Mossad and all this stuff. So let me read this to you. This is in regards to during the FBI investigation, they found out that Jack Valente had a lot of gay people he associated with, and he was investigated for being a homosexual because there were a lot of allegations against him being a homosexual. And in 1963, you could go to fucking jail for that. It was illegal in the 60s, right? It's crazy. But that's how it was. So they were investigating him for numerous reasons. They were investigating because they thought he was a homosexual, and they were investigating because they thought he had ties to the mob. What they should have been investigating was ties to the goddamn CIA. So he had a friend who was a photographer out in California, and this friend out in California had some pictures of the president, and the fucking FBI freaked out. They lost their head trying to get a hold of these and figure out what the deal with them is. Why would they do that if they were just general pictures? There's pictures of the president, doing his thing all over the place in the news and whatnot. They made a big deal about getting these goddamn pictures. And there's only one reason that they would do that, is they were inappropriate. So he stated that when President Johnson was the vice president of the United States, he made some photographs of the vice president. He stated that he did not recall whether Valente had arranged with Mr. Johnson to have these photographs taken. Blank said. He said that he has so many pictures. Okay, so when you really come to understand the relationship between LBJ and Valente, those guys were definitely hooking up. Without question, Jack Valente was definitely gay, and LBJ was one of those guys who'd literally stick it fucking anywhere. Anywhere. Didn't matter. He'd stick it anywhere. Not necessarily gay or bisexual, but he didn't care. He'd fuck whatever. Okay, so this is here talks about Jack Valente's security clearance. So Jack Valente, so in 1966, he leaves the White House, right? He leaves the White House for a very good reason. I don't even know if I have slides in there on that, but I might not. But he leaves the White House because the FBI was onto him for numerous things. And he goes and he takes over. He becomes the head of the MPAA in Hollywood, right? Actually stays in D.C., runs Hollywood from D.C., right? Just to tell you about who runs Hollywood. The CIA runs Hollywood, of course. So fundamentally, he doesn't get a security clearance until he's on his way out the fucking door, right? So Psy granted him final clearance for top secret on 5/25/66 as a consultant, valid for 180 days only unless appointed in the meantime. Psy again granted him final clearance for top secret on 5/31/67 as a member of the board on foreign scholarships, right? So he's got a front membership to justify his fucking security clearance. It's ridiculous. It's blatantly obvious that he was intelligence. Here we go down to the bottom. The Psy file does not show any termination of clearance concerning this individual. However, Psy has advised that all its clearance terminate when the person's relationship with the Department of State terminates, not their employment with the Department of State, their relationship with the Department of State. Jack Valente held his top secret security clearance from the fucking day he left the White House until the day he died. Explain that to me if he doesn't work for the CIA. Also, you will find that Jack Valenti is not his real name. His real name is Joseph Malachi Valenti. And you'll discover this. This is hard. I need to go to Houston and pull Jack Valenti's birth certificate. That's what I need to do, because it will have this on there clear as day, and I can prove that Jack Valenti is not his real name. When you dig through the files, you'll see numerous references to somebody named Mel. Mel is short for Malachi. Malachi is Joseph's middle name. Joseph Malachi Valenti is Jack Valenti's real name. But you will not see that on any official documents or nothing because, well, he is protected and has been since he was 15 years old. Review October 174, personnel records on file, National Personnel Records Center, Civilian, St. Louis, Missouri, indicated Jack J. Valenti, Social Security account number 466090583, was employed on June 3rd, 66, as consultant with Office of Deputy Undersecretary for Administration, Department of State, Washington, D.C. Employment terminated May 5th, 1969 by reason of services no longer required. During this period of employment, Valenti worked 0 days. 0 days. So he's on the books as being working for the government and the State Department. He's got a top secret security clearance and he doesn't work any days, but he's got a full-time career as the head of the MPAA, which runs Hollywood. Give me a fucking break. This is the slam dunk proof that Jack Valenti, it was CIA, and that the CIA runs Hollywood. Okay, let's get into aliases. So we're going to talk a little bit about McWillie. McWillie was kind of an underboss to Mo Dalitz up in Las Vegas. He's connected to a guy named R.D. Matthews. And R.D. Matthews is an associate of Jack Ruby. R.D. Matthews also happens to share a first cousin with a woman named Earlene Roberts, who happens to be the sister of Bertha Cheek. I'm not even going to get into that. We'll talk about that some other time. So McWillie had gone to Triscornia to see a fellow named Giuseppe. He had been a dealer around the Capri where McWillie was a manager. He had a fanatic gambler, gambled all his money away. Besides seeing Trafficante, McWillie recalled seeing Jake Lansky, Dino Cellini, and Giuseppe, whom he identified after prodding as Giuseppe DeGeorge. Okay, Giuseppe DeGeorge, very important. So we got here connection from Giuseppe DeGeorge to McWillie. McWillie is a slam dunk concrete connection to Ruby and Robert McEwen and all those guys. So what is Jack Valenti's father's name? Giuseppe Valenti. What is Jack Valenti's mother's name? Josephine DeGeorge. The Giuseppe DeGeorge reference here is Jack Valenti. Let's move on. All right, coded message in police reports. So bottom line is after Jack Valenti leaves the White House, he leaves in 66, and he had to get the hell out of Dodge. And I can't tell that story today. I don't think I'm going to. If I find slides in here for it, I'm not going to tell it. But he had to get the hell out of the White House because they were onto him for numerous reasons and reasons which connect to other things. So, basically, Valenti, this is in like 67, 68, something like that. Valenti, who sits on the board of directors of TWA, and he sits on the board of directors of the YMCA. Why would he do that? Well, when you sit on the board of directors of the YMCA, you can kind of move around the country and you can stay at YMCAs and stay off the radar and stay there without having been booked in because you're on the board of directors. Same thing with TWA. You can catch flights wherever the hell you want and have be no record of it. Excellent for spies. You'll find a lot of people associated with the CIA sit on boards of companies of services that they can use to cover their covert activities. And that's exactly what Jack Valenti did all the fuck over the place. So here, everyone thinks that Malcolm Wallace, is that his name? Malcolm Wallace, they're fucking retarded Kennedy conspiracy fucks. Talking about Malcolm Wallace is like Lyndon Johnson's personal hitman. It's a bunch of propaganda. The bottom line is I actually believe that Jack Valenti was Lyndon Johnson's personal hitman. And here's one great indication why, because this is a coded message that was sent in a police report. So he takes a TWA flight, which he then reports that he has some bunch of stuff stolen out of his bag. So it gets onto the plane and it gets into the storage underneath the plane. And by the time it gets his luggage back, he has a bunch of things stolen. But the things that he lists as stolen don't make any sense. I'll read this to you. The following items were missing from his suitcase: one pair of 5/8 inch in diameter cufflinks with the presidential seal given to him by President Lyndon Johnson. One pair of 6/8 inch diamond D cufflinks with presidential seal given to him by President Lyndon Johnson. Omega watch with red sweep, hand and dark dial. One pair of tortoiseshell sunglasses. One Panasonic battery operated rechargeable shaver. Valenti stated that, and this is the best part, none of these items were identifiable. However, the two cufflink sets would not be in normal circulation as they contain the presidential seal. Do you see what's being said here? These cufflinks don't exist. Okay. I did a deep fucking dive into these cufflinks. They do not exist. There were a whole bunch of different sets of cufflinks. Not any of them are described as this. There are no 5/8 cufflinks or 6/8 cufflinks. They're all donned in millimeters. Yeah, this is a coded message from Valenti to Lyndon Johnson, because he knows, as the head of the MPAA and as being on the board of directors of TWA, when he makes a report like this to the police, that something like this is going to be flagged and this is going to be sent by Secret Service to Lyndon Johnson. He knows it. And that's why he sent it this way. And look at that, 5 out of 8, 6 out of 8. Lyndon Johnson is said to have had a hit list of 8 people. And I think this coded message is him telling him that he knocked off 5 and 6 out of 8. That's what I believe this is. This was the first indicator to me that he was anything more than just a guy who worked for the MPAA. Next, it gets into 71 and Peking when he's over there. And I've got coded messages with Henry Kissinger. And then when he left the White House, his only contacts, he had 2 contacts. Henry Kissinger, who was working at the time initially in the White House, and his other contact was Richard fucking Helms, who by then had left the CIA, wink, wink, and was the ambassador to Iran. It's hilarious when you really come to grasp the significance of everything I just said. It's fucking like a comedy sketch. And then I find things like this, the president's hitman, Jack Valenti, right? So you find this stuff all over the place. Valenti on JFK, it's a smear. And yeah, so Jack Valenti was actually behind the production of JFK the movie and The Men Who Killed Kennedy. But then after they come out, he comes railing against them, right? Psychological warfare techniques in action. Okay, as far as his connection to the mob, I thought this was pretty important. This is one of the documents from the FBI investigation into his background, and this is actually pretty significant. I was able to complete the redactions because these redactions, actually, when you read FBI documents, you'll find that a lot of things are duplicated, 5, 10 times in a stack of a grouping of documents, and then they'll have it redacted in some spots and not redacted in other spots, right? So eventually you kind of get a gist for what's happening. And in some places, they straight up just don't redact things where they do redact it in other places. So it becomes, it took me a while. I'm only about a third of the way through the Jack Valenti file, actually getting it filled in. It's probably going to take me the rest of my goddamn life because some of it's just really hard. So I'll read this in 1952, he and associate established advertising firm of Weekly in Valenti, Houston. He also wrote weekly column for the Houston Post, married President Johnson's former secretary, Mary Margaret Wiley, June 1, 1962. Wife and infant daughter, who are actually Lyndon Johnson's daughter, are still in Houston. He's reportedly house seeking in Washington, D.C. Houston Senior Rail, June 21, 1962, caption, quote, criminal intelligence program, weekly summary, end quote, which contains information concerning alleged relationship between Valenti and one Joseph Lucia Top Hoodlum. It is indicated that informant has heard Jack Valenti and Lucia carried on a homosexual relationship. Informant also stated that he was informed Lucia had financed Valenti's honeymoon trip to Las Vegas and paid for his travel expenses. Informant stated he does not know this to be fact, only what he was told. And I pieced that together through actually completed sections of the Jack Valenti file that actually revealed that information. So that's kind of how you do that. So Valenti, behind the scenes with media executives of NBC, Hearst Corp, Walt Disney Corp, which owns A&E Networks, prepared a program for the History Channel that portrayed Johnson as the killer of JFK. It was aired on the 40th anniversary of JFK's murder, November 2003. Valenti, with treacherous ill will, now ensconces himself as a friend of LBJ. He joins with Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and Lady Bird Johnson, wanting a probe into the allegations of the guilty men that LBJ killed JFK. So he comes out and he makes the damn thing, and then he comes out railing against it. So this next thing I'm going to show you was a clip from a forum from 2004 that I took. This just melted my brain because I had just come to the understanding of who Jack Valenti was, how he operated, and that he actually was the shooter on the grassy knoll. And I'm going to go into the mechanics of how he did it, and there's no denying it was him. But check this out. From 2004, I find this forum post by Dave Miller, who Dave Miller, as we already talked about, is the real name of Dave Yaris, right? But he's dead long ago. It ain't him. Who the hell knows who this is? It says, the whole time y'all talk about Jiminy Glickman, I'm thinking Jiminy Glickman, a.k.a. Martin Short. That would be fun. He's talking about the guy who took over the MPAA after Jack Valenti. And he goes, Jack's had an amazing career in spite of being the third shooter from the grassy knoll. Peace, Dave Miller. I fucking read this and I was like, am I in the Matrix? What the hell is going on here? I don't know who wrote this. To me, it's more incidental than anything, but I thought it was pretty fascinating. Let's look at where Valenti says he was that day. I rode serenely in the motorcade in the 6th car following the open convertible carrying the president and his wife as well as John Connolly, blah, blah, blah. So we rode serenely in the motorcade in the 6th car, okay? Another interview. The next day, Valenti was riding in with Evelyn Lincoln and Liz Carpenter, 8 cars behind Kennedy when the motorcade. So he's telling all these people 6 cars, 8 cars. He doesn't know where the fuck he was. Then it comes to this one. I found myself in a large car with Evelyn Lincoln, secretary to the president, Pamela Turner, aide to Mrs. Kennedy, and the irrepressible Liz Carpenter, chief of staff to Mrs. Johnson. We were 6 cars back from the president's open convertible, okay? 6 cars back in a large car. Next one. Jack Valenti. From Love Field, we got into the motorcade, and as I recall, I got into a small bus. Liz Carpenter, Pamela Turner, and Evelyn Lincoln, blah, blah, blah. He then goes on to say, we got aboard this smallish van. We got into the motorcade. I guess we were 12 or 14 cars from the front of the line. So completely different story. Then when you go to the actual official story of where he was in the fucking motorcade, he was 24th on the party bus. And then when you look at the credits of how they got that information, they got this information from Valenti, who told him he was on the party bus. This motherfucker doesn't know where the hell he was because he was, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. You will see momentarily where he was. So Jack shoots the president from right there. Could have been a little bit in either direction, but he had to hustle from the time he pulled that trigger. And you'll see why here momentarily. That is frame 313, where the president's head exploded. Now, let's look at this picture again. Now we're back to Dealey Plaza. We have this floating head, which caused me a lot of problems. This floating head in Dealey Plaza is extremely significant. And I think this is some photo obfuscation because it's not Kennedy. Kennedy's head you can just see just around the other side of this motorcycle cop. That head is not a shadow. The shadows are going the other direction. I don't know what the hell's going on with this head, but it's floating there for some reason, and it's got a flat top and glasses. That's all you need to know for now. So shots are fired. Kennedy gets hit. Clint Hill, this lying traitor, hops up on the back of the limousine, and they take off. If you'll notice, the lead car, which contains Decker and Forrest Sorrells and Cory, is braking, right? They're turning around, they're seeing what's happening. They're braking, and they're seeing that Clint Hill is up on the back of the president's limousine. In the next photograph, this is on the other side of the overpass. This is on the other immediate side of the overpass, or leading to it. You'll see that the president's limo is leaping around the lead car, right? So the lead car had its brakes on. The limousine then jumps around the lead car, okay? But then again, after that happens, we have the lead car now jumping around the limousine once again, right? So you have a game of leapfrog going on here. Let's zoom in on the president's car and see what shenanigans are afoot. When you zoom in on that picture, you notice a couple things. First off, there was all those Secret Service agents who were on the car. They're not there anymore. Now all you got is 1 Secret Service agent on each side of the car instead of 4, because you got Clint Hill, who's in the back seat of the limousine on top of Jackie at this point. All right. He's out of the picture. You can see his head coming just to the right of the rim, right above here. If you look at this, this is the rim of the upper edge of the limousine. And that's probably Clint Hill's head as it's leaning over the side of the car as he's on top of Jackie. Okay. This is what's going on here. Jack Valenti goes over the top of the knoll down the other side. And as this leapfrog is happening, you have Greer, the driver of the president's limo, swerves around, and Jack Valenti hops in the back of the president's limo. And that's him standing in the back seat holding the rifle. And you can see it clear as day. Here's his jacket. Here's his head. There's his hat. There's his arm. And it's going out to the rifle, which extends this direction right here. Okay, that's exactly what that is. Greer picked up Valenti on the other side of the knoll, and he hops in the car as they're playing this leapfrog game. Let's jump to this picture again. You can see it. Jack's in the back seat, 1 Secret Service agent on each side of the Secret Service car. On the left side, the Secret Service guy has a flat top, and as you'll see, he has glasses. That Secret Service agent on the left side was the floating head in Dealey Plaza that I can't seem to figure out where it was attached, but that is him. The Secret Service agents, and we'll discuss exactly what they did as we move forward, but as you can see here, you've got the lead car, which has Cory and Decker and Forrest Sorrells and one of the guys from Secret Service or something, in this car leapfrogging around the limousine. So that gives the limousine an excuse to slow down or stop, to give them the opportunity to get in front once again. And in doing that, Jack Valenti here, who is standing in the back seat of the president's limo with the rifle, and he needs to get the rifle to the Secret Service car because the president's limo is going to get searched. So he needs to get that rifle back to the Secret Service car, which implicates everybody in all three of these fucking cars. Okay? So the lead car does its leapfrog once again. Jack Valenti hops out of the back of the limo, runs to the other side of the Secret Service car, and here is Jack Valenti and David Morales on the front of the Secret Service car leaving Dealey Plaza. That is exactly who that is. Jack Valenti and David Morales fleeing Dealey Plaza on the front of the Secret Service car. Now, let's rewind a little bit and let's look at who was supposed to be on the side of the Secret Service car. And we're talking about John D. Jack Reedy, and we're talking about Paul E. Landis. Okay? That's who those guys are. Very easy to identify these guys. This is where the official record puts them, and by looking at them, you can tell that it's them. Here we are, this picture again with the floating head, right? So you've got two guys. You have John D. Jack Reedy, and you have Paul E. Landis on the side of the car. They're the same height, give or take, right? Roughly the same height, two white guys, okay? You can tell that Landis has got that little part right there. And look at that picture. That picture of Landis is him holding John F. Kennedy Jr. when he got back to Washington, D.C., that scumbag. Okay, but the point is, that's those two guys on the side of the car up until this point here, right? And so then look at the floating head. The floating head's there, the flat top, the glasses. And now let's go look at the picture of Valenti and David Morales again. Clearly that is not Jack Reedy and Paul Landis. Look at that. That's David Morales and Jack Valenti. Okay? So what the fuck happened from here? Well, look at this next picture. This next picture, it looks like Morales dipped. It looked like he got off the car. He's gone. Okay. In the front seat here, what you have is you have three people now in the front seat. You've got Samuel Kinney driving the car. You've got Valenti in the middle. Okay. And you got Emory Roberts squished up against the right side of the car. Look at that. Three people in the front seat, and Valenti's one of them. And now Landis is back on the outside of the car, and you know it's Landis because of his haircut. Look at that haircut. The rounded haircut style. Look at that. There he is, back on the outside of the car. And look at this picture again. Jack Valenti and the guy with the flat top and the glasses is on the side. It's David Morales. That's how they did it. That's how the grassy knoll shooter got away. He shoots the president from the knoll, comes over from the other side, hops in the president's car. They do the jump. They do the leapfrog. He hops out of the car onto the front of the Secret Service car. He then hops into the front seat. David Morales bails out of the car. Landis gets back to the outside from, obviously he jumped into the car before David Morales gets in there. And then later on, we'll see that John D. Jack Reedy is at Parkland, but he wasn't on the Secret Service car.